Hi folks, well this is the Silverstone post-race review. Having a look back at our day at Silverstone National with MSV Track Day Trophy. You can see here the cars in one piece. I have a big smile on my face and Mike does as well. So here's how it went. So here we are on our way to Silverstone race morning. Absolutely nerve-wracking, but as you can see, the sun is shining. It's dry, and they forecast rain showers, so it's variable. So rather than looking at the bad news of the last few days, it seems that everything is kind of blowing through at this stage, and we're just getting some clearing showers. So some of them might be heavy. They say they might be wintry, building throughout the day. So we just need to keep an eye on that, but it looks like a dry start to the day, which is really good. The road on the way here seems dry enough. We'll get there about 9 o'clock ish. Get the dry tires swapped on, the AR1s. Just have a general look around and settle into it. Get into the race suit. Try and enjoy the day as much as possible. So, more at Silverstone. So all the cameras are running, Mike. There you go, pins out. So here we go folks, 25 minutes for qualifying. And we'll condense this down into just a few. So at Silverstone you enter the circuit just at Brooklands. That's a couple of turns just before the starting straight, so it's effectively a free lap. You get on your warm-up lap. Both of us have got to do a minimum of 3 laps to qualify, so that's what they call banker laps. Need to watch how we say that. Well, the driver change, it only gives about 20 minutes, and that's about 8 laps or thereabouts. So get the 3 laps in, get a few more, see what you can do. Everybody is a bit of a bun fight really. Everybody's trying to do the fast as they can within the time. 3 different classes of cars. Class B, which are the fastest. C, we are in the middle, which is us, and then Class D, very slightly. There's not a huge amount. It's a well-driven Class D car can outclass Class C, and for faster cars, especially, it gets wet. We'll see that later. Some of the Class D cars do really well in this race. So that's it. Mike has driven the car before, but he's never experienced the new differential ratio. Car's gearing is from a theoretical maximum of 177 miles an hour. Of course, it would never reach that with wind resistance down to about 135. And on this track, we only get up to about 112 of 113 miles an hour. So Mike doing a sterling effort, passing some cars, some was passing him, and he puts in a very respectable 111.1. That ends up putting us 15th on the grid. So we also got to practice the drive change. We've done that in the pits, but always good to do it again. There's Sam McKee flying by in the E36 328i. That's the same class as us. Of course, Sam's a lot more experienced, racing about 4 years, and it's quite obvious when you see that he ends up putting in about a 1:08 and to qualify 6th on the grid. And there it is, 1:11.153. They end up qualifying just 0.2 of a second slower, 1:11.3. There I am, arms open, and just opening the bonnet to take the cover off the oil cooler. We ran the first pot just to get the oil up to proper temperature, and then remove it to keep it at a reasonable temperature for about 1:10, 1:15 or thereabouts. Rob there's kindly got the torque wrench just to the bolts when they're hot. They always give a little bit as the wheels and tires and brakes heat up. And there's always somebody watching, whether it be in the race or anything else, just to make sure you do things correctly. You've got to sanitize, of course, it's still well within COVID regulations. Make a bit of a deal of it. Throwing the cloth about so it's all observed. Really difficult to see the buckles with the hands to pass on the FHR frontal head restraint and limits your forward head motion. It's always nice to get a bit of help.
Is this switched off?
A little bit confused that the logger had switched itself off.
Don't worry about it at the moment.
Anyway, time to go.
Press start button and then go. Ready? Go.
So observing the 60 km/h limit, looking for a green light. There it is, off we go. Coming out of the pits, of course, staying to the right side of the solid white light line. And there's the reason why. So with the new drive ratio in the car, you end up relearning the track. Before we were here, it was all 3rd and 4th gear. Now we can actually use 3rd, 4th and 5th, and actually rev it out reasonably well in 5th. There you can see we're already up near 6,000 RPMs in 5th. So it's all a matter of relearning the circuit again. So there's no separate practice and qualification, it's all the one. So the first time you see track is when you're actually qualifying for the race. Everybody's doing the same, it becomes a bit of a bad fight on shared track. But Silverstone, thankfully, is a fairly wide circuit and there's plenty of room, there's not too much penalty for flying, of course. As the faster cars approach, it's their problem to get around your jobs to stay predictable. But if you can give them a bit of room, that's always nice. So the little orange Fiesta here is steaming through, and they end up qualifying right beside us on the grid. So here I'm very conscious of the cars around me. I think that comes with experience. And there we are, qualified 15th. And I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or thereabouts. And before we know it, it's over. And what they got to do is, because it's power to weight ratios, the cars have all been dynoed. We have our official performance certificate, the power certificate, and then we go and get weighed to make sure that we are above the minimum weight to make the category. Now I expect this car to be about 1380 kilos or thereabouts.
That's alright. What does it weigh?
1390 maybe. And it's never nice to see when he gets his calculator out. The screen says 1141, and I can't believe we're 200 kilos light.
You alright? What was the weight? 1140 kilos? Yeah. Alright, okay.
So look at my little face. I'm so shocked. I can't even speak. We did go back and get the car re-weighed. It wasn't fully on the scales, and it weighed in at 1400 kilos in the end, which is well above the 1260 that we needed. But here's the conversation we had when we got back.
Yeah, that was fun. However, it weighs in at 1141 kilos.
Are we underway?
I think so.
Okay, of course.
But how can it be like 200 kilos? I'll have to ask McKee what he's up to.
Did you get screwed in?
So, just finished it qualifying. Mike went out first of all, and I took over, did the second stint. We'll reverse that in the race. But so far, both fairly even actually. We're both putting in 111 laps. The fastest in the class is about 107. 108 is sort of top three. But we've started, going to start 15 out of 39 cars on the grid, which is somewhere in the middle, which is perfect. We're not near the end, and that's all we can really hope to expect. With that, I'm going to start the race. It's a standing start, so go with the lights go out, and going to drive for about 20 minutes. Pit lane opens at 15 minutes, so if there's a safety car or anything like that, I'll dive straight in, take advantage of that. However, probably pit board will open at 15 minutes. I'll probably do something like 3 laps after that and dive in for Mike to take over and finish the race. That splits it up about 50-50. We just had a rain shower go through. Hopefully it'll dry out a little bit over lunchtime. The race is at 3 o'clock. It might be a little bit ahead of that, but we'll just wait and see what happens. So having fun. The kind of the race nerves have subsided just a little bit. However, I've only done qualification, but it was the car felt great. New diff is perfect for it. So you know what, chuffed all round, and roll on to the race.
And a 5 second warning, and then the lights will go on after the 5 seconds, and then when they go out is when you go. You'll hear it and you'll see it. You're close enough to the front, I think, that you should be able to see the gantry and everything.
When you look at that,
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Yeah.
steering wheel will be off,
Yeah.
timer will be running, and I'll put the shoulder straps up at the top.
Yeah.
So I've done 45, 30. I think I've got the right tracking there now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Once you see the 30-second ball, press start. Then press your T2 ready. Yeah. That's it.
Oh boy. I think this is this is where the kind of the nerves start to kick in.
Yeah, this is the worst part, mate. I find this the worst bit. Just sat here. But
yeah, this is kind of reality. This is the kind of 9 months of.
don't think about all that bit.
9 months of fucking build up.
All you got to worry about, mate, is just getting a nice clean start. And like I say, once you're back down to this straight, then the madness will be, pretty much over. Then you can just crack on, concentrate on your lines and stuff like that.
Find my own pace.
Find your groove, mate. Yeah, find your groove. You'll be alright.
Is that it?
Cool. Alright, mate. I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks, mate.
So here I am acting the hoon, just getting some heat to the brakes. although the DS111 pads are pretty good when they're cold, but every little helps. And so are the tires. So just trying to get a little bit of heat the best I can. No green flag lap, which means effectively a warm-up lap. So we just hit the start cold, hit the first corner lukewarm and hope for the best. So at this stage, all I'm just trying to do is make sure that the Solo 2, the data logger, is up and running, and that my timer, the race, is at 45 minutes and 30 seconds, and the plan is that I turn it on the 30-second board. Panic is starting to rise.
That's the 1 minute board. Seconds. Ready.
So that's the 30-second board. Start the stopwatch. So I was expecting 4 red lights that were going to go out. And imagine my surprise when the first row disappeared. So I stabbed the throttle, just spun the wheel. So maybe I could have done better, but here we are. I felt as if I was getting very close to that little orange car in front, so I backed off a little bit. And as you saw, that's all it took for everybody else to maybe catch up, the guys to disappear ahead. I think had I been a bit more confident, I would have kept it in. So here we go, back to the start. Isn't that a lovely wide screen? Yeah, just backed off. And still MR2 to the left's having fun. Iggy runs a bit wide on his cold tires. But nothing disastrous, I have to say. I was quite happy with that. Nobody got past. So it's just about all of keeping it clean at this point in time. I was quite surprised that the guys aren't just getting away from me as fast as I thought they might have done. That's a little bit of a procession ahead. The final corner. There we go, clean lap. So I'm being hounded behind here by a little silver Honda Type R. Not sure when he's going to attempt a passing maneuver, but I'm just driving on my line. So if you look up the left side, it's the first attack of Mr. Type R, number 88, storming up the inside. There'll be more of him later on. So on our pre-race day chat, there's another video on that. Mike spoke about following your own lines, your own braking points, and not getting carried away with the guy ahead. Very easy to be suckered into it all. So it looks as if I'm just matching his pace. Just trying to keep it clean and not get suckered into his braking points. But he took a bit of a weird line here, and I was able to gain a little bit up the straight. I thought I'd chink out and just have a look. So he's maybe seen me in a look, and I put a bit of pressure on him, and he's just overcooked it into here. There he is, exceeding track limits for perhaps the first time this race. And that's where he stayed for a while. So here we are, a couple of laps later. It's hot lap time, for me anyway. I think in this lap we knock a second out of it. No idea why. .108 there maybe seems a little faster. So maybe it was just a clear track. No idea. Maybe other people more experienced than me can tell in the comments or message or whatever. So still 113. Incremental gains, I suppose. Carrying a bit more speed through corners. So we'll get through this lap. Fast forward on to some a bit more of the action, and then we'll get through to the pit. You'll see the driver change, and more interestingly you'll see some of Mike Jacobs' laps, and even in the wet he had an admirable pace. Safety car comes out, others getting trapped to the pits, etc., etc. So on to lap 11 here. Little Porsche Boxster. I think he had a bit of a moment earlier on, which is why he's dropped back just that little bit. And here's Have a Go Henry taking us both just as I get held up in traffic. You can see how squirrely he is. Just keep an eye on him here. Down the next straight. Got a little tight. And then he saw me at the last minute and gave me some room. So that was very kind. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And now back on to Mr. Type R, who seems to be enjoying himself. Oh, maybe enjoying himself too much. Cheerio. So all that good hard work he did in 2 cars just didn't really happen for him. And there's the Class B Golf lapping me. just such a quick car, that, and it just disappeared into the distance. So fantastic setup, I have to say. So it's into the pits. You can see the wipers are on just as we speak, and frantically looking for somebody that I know. And there they are. So I have to remember to remove the wheel, put the straps over the top, and clean the car, because it has to be COVID sanitized, and make a big deal about it by throwing the cloth out. So nobody can say that you didn't do it. It's funny because there's always people watching. Make sure you do it right. I think here a lady reminds Mike that he needs to tighten his shoulder straps a little bit. Not quite sure where she actually came from. I'm just checking there that there's nothing obviously leaking out of the car. But the temperature and pressure gauges that you see just below the little mile/hour thing on the screen gives a good indication of how the engine's behaving on the straights. We get a chance. And there we go. There's the COVID police. Well, he just wants to go. But I have to put my hand up here and say that I think I started the clock about 3 seconds early. Of course, we've got a 2-minute limit to get through the pits. Any less than that, and we get penalised a full lap, believe it or not, and your race is effectively over. So here I am really worried, but I think Mike, in his wisdom, gave it about 2 minutes 5, and in the end we did, I think, a 2 minutes and 1 point something seconds. So here Mike's just finding levels of grip in the car. You can see the wipers are going fairly well now. One of my better preparations was making sure that there was some Rain-X on the windscreen and the side windows. It's a fantastic product. I used to use it on the visor of the motorbike helmet, and it's fantastic. It just streams the water away. Don't know what's in it, but it works really, really well. And when you're up to speed, there's virtually no need for wipers at all. So hopefully Mike will thank me for that one. There it is. The heavens have just officially opened, and Mike's having a harder time of it than me. He's just trying to make the best of it. Now the pit window here opened about 6 minutes ago. It's only open for 15 minutes. And there hasn't been a safety car yet. So the shrewd racers around us would say, well, it's just turned wet. We're likely to maybe get some spinners. Silverstone operates what we call a live snatch, which means the race continues under yellow flags, and they pull the poor sod out of the gravel. So there's less likelihood of a safety car coming out, but it really depends on how many cars are spun at the same time. And here you just see the amount of water that's around. He's still pulling 106 there down the Wellington Straight. And let's see if it's all a bit, yeah, plenty of corrections there on the wheel, getting it round the corner. At least he's got a fairly clear track here at the moment. Of course, the lap time, very hard to dictate, because it started the last time I passed in the pits, and then he's had a full out lap, another lap, and it'll kind of reset now as he goes over the line. So ignore that 3 minutes and 9 seconds. I really don't know why the lap timer has had an issue with that. So sorry, Mike, if there's not a breakdown of lap times. I'm sure we can pull it out of the TSL website itself. So the great thing about modern motorsport is that the little transponders are very, very good, and they publish all the data. So whilst you're watching Mike scissor away, you can see the breakdown. The P on lap 17 is the pit stop that we made, and then the first one on 120 is obviously from a standing start, which is why it's much slower. But there, laps 2 through to 7, 112s, then we nipped a 111. We knocked a second between laps 7 and 8, and again, I've no idea why that's the case. So the pit change at 17, Mike goes on, does a 3:18. That obviously includes the pit time. And then 121 straight out the bag before the heavens opened, and then there's a 127, 129, 150, 203. So the yellow highlighted ones are the times under the pit, the safety car, should I say. And obviously everything is reduced, so not much racing there. It's just to keep things safe. Nobody can overtake. But when the safety car eventually does go in, you'll see Mike's laps dramatically improve. A 132, a 128, 24, 22, and then he just kept getting faster and faster in the wet. So, well done, sir. 1 minute 20.096. Who would have known? You might have even gone faster, given a bit more time in the seat. So thanks for keeping it safe and well, having fun doing it. So safety car is out for 5 or 6 laps. We'll just fast forward through to get it a bit more racing. I think he gets waved through. I can only think that the safety car guys were waiting for the leaders to come through, and they were just waving through everyone else. Either way, because we had already pitted, we had made time on the track, and I believe that some of the other competitors were held in the pit lane for an extra 40 or 50 seconds whilst the procession went by, so that's bound to have affected things overall, but luck is luck, I suppose. They waited till the safety car went out before they pitted, and we didn't. We just split the time equally. So here's a couple of laps later on, and the safety car waves the drivers by. It seems as if he's probably waiting to catch up with the lead cars, and then he'll go in. But it is what it is, and hopefully we can get back to racing fairly soon. So the sensible thing to do at this point is try and make up as much time as possible. But of course it's full course yellows, so you can't overtake the car in front, nor can they overtake you, so it becomes a bit of a procession. But you'll see the rain has ended. It's still very, very wet out there, but it's still a bit of a procession. And judging by the way he's scissoring, there isn't a huge amount of grip still either. So it looks like he's caught up at the end of the session. Hopefully the safety car would have gone in that time. And the racing is on again. A respectful 90 odd. There's one past. That was that faster Golf from earlier on. And I suppose everybody a bit hacked off. They've just done a few laps behind the safety car for no apparent reason. Maybe they just put it out because of the torrential rain. The race started dry. They would have assumed that a lot of guys would have been on the dry tyres, as were we. But there will be those cars that have started on wet tyres, taking a gamble that it was going to rain at some stage, or maybe they just running control tyres. There's another one past. You can just see how difficult it is with all the spray. The braking points really are what you see out of your periphery, the curbs and the points, and of course you memorize those as you go by. Oh, it's our old friend Mr. Type R again, throwing caution to the wind and running on regardless of his own safety and others. There's a storming E36 going through there. I know for a fact that Sam McKee Motorsport, he races in road sports as well. He's helped me out throughout, and that is a very fast car, especially with Sam at the wheel. He says he loves the wet, and it's obvious. He was held in the pits for about 40 seconds too long, which meant he playing a bit of catch up. So we finished 8th in the end in class. That E36 ended up just finishing 6th. So and a very respectful 104 in the wet. I have to say that takes some kahunas. Oh, there's our friend again. He must have he must have had a bit of an accident. Oh, there he is, trying his best up the inside. Let's see what happens at his favourite corner, shall we? No, through clean. So again, something else going on with the data logging, but as we saw previously, he's putting in consistently fast times in the region of 120-ish here in the wet, and that's absolutely an astounding a figure. Much respect, Mike. Little RX-7, I think he's finding the limits of adhesion and then disappearing into the fog. Another little moment from Mike. I think he's actually enjoying it at this point. Oh, brave move, man. Up the inside and got him again. This goes to show what the BMW can do in a straight line. Oh, and a little fist pump of joy as he got by, so obviously happy with that. If you just listen, you can hear him giggling away. So the checkered flag's only a couple of corners away now. He knows it, he's just trying to feed out the last couple of corners. You would have seen the timer on the steering wheel go to 0. You might not see it, but that was the checkered flag. And what a happy boy for keeping it in one place. So here's the final classification. There we are, finishing 14th overall, 8th in class. You can really see how the wet weather's evened out the field. So the top 4 finishers, Class B cars, then you get into the Class Cs. And there's even a Class D car on MX-5 that finished ahead of us, so really, really outstanding performance there. A couple of Class D cars, in fact. Everyone's happy just to go back in one piece when conditions are like this and have changed very quickly. Good luck, Mike, for thumbs up to the marshals. Without them, none of this is possible. Of course, Parc Fermé at the very end of the pit lane, just as we did in qualifying. Car's got to be weighed again.
sketchy. Jesus Christ. Oh God. Sketchy, a little bit sketchy towards the end there. Yeah, he said he had problems earlier on fitting it on. I lined up on there because I can't see shit.
Yeah. Surviving, mate.
Oh, mate, honestly.
Is it sketchy?
Sketchy, this is a fucking understatement. Jesus Christ.
The hand movement you gave us, was that this close to coming
Or was
up?
it wanker
Or was it
sign?
wanker sign to someone?
I was like, every corner I was like that close to binning it.
Really?
Yeah, every corner. And there was
did
a
it?
fair few slides where I was trying to go on the power. I was accelerating out of left field and fourth, and I was fucking spinning the rear wheels and like drifting it out. A couple of big ones that sort of snapped back, and every time I was on the brakes on the way in, they started to get some decent dry lines, but it was just so many points where it was just like understeering forwards. You go to turn, nothing would happen. All of a sudden you'll catch one little dry patch, it'd send it into a snap. Every time I was coming down the gears, it would snap, the back end would snap on the way in, and I was like, and then on the way out of every gear, you're like, shit,
But was it fairly predictable?
It was controllable, yeah, which was good. So I mean, we set it up well enough so that I could do all that and still be okay and not take it off the track.
We saw a couple of them done.
Yeah.
Could have done better.
Yeah, I think the safety car messed up because
Yeah, they came out
out
late.
they did a couple of laps before they
It felt like it was out for
actually
ages.
started
When it was
clearing
doing it though,
the-
when it was out, it was so heavy, the rain. Like every time I came
Yeah.
into a braking zone, I was racing that blue RX-8 for a bit. Could not. In the braking bit, you couldn't even see the rain lights at points. You were just literally fucking like, you saw some sort of distance blurs, and you were like, "I'll start braking about now." And that old boy, he fucking hounded me, but binned it a couple of times.
Fucking Sizik.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
But he was hounding. I mean, and McKee fucking stuffed it up the inside of me. I was trying to get it in, And then I got it fucking squirrely and it pushed it on a bit, and then before you know it, he was there, and I was turning in. I was like, "You bastard!" I actually called him worse than that. Sorry. I was like, "Don't stick it there, you." But yeah, it was.
Did you get any dry lap? No. Like, was it raining from the minute you
Yeah,
got
as soon as
out
I went out, the wipers were on. Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, here we go. This is good."
Proper hammered it.
It was so raining.
Not just
Oh,
wet,
mate,
it was
yeah.
drenched.
I was into the 120s at one point.
Okay, on the screen worked okay for you?
Yeah. I think. See what I don't know what we'll sort it in a minute.
Awesome.
I need to get out. I'm
Try and get out.
sweating. Bits off.
Back off cliffs.
Yeah, sorry.
Really, really, see with the wings and everything. Yeah.
This is a nice logo.
When it was when we were buying the safety car, I literally was saying in the I don't know if it heard me or picked me up on the microphone, but I was saying like, I don't know how the fuck we're going to race in this. I honestly don't know how the fuck we're going to race in that. And then it was like, and then there was green flags. I was like, oh shit, we're going.
Hi folks, it's only me. Well, we're back from Silverstone where we had an absolutely fantastic day. Myself and Mike Jacobs. Initially, we qualified in 15th, which was 9th in class, and ultimately we made up one place to finish 8th in Class C and 14th overall out of approximately 35 cars. So as a first outing, it was absolutely awesome. We had a laugh. It was very much a race of two halves. I did the qualifying session after Mike. He went out initially, did the noise test in the assembly area. Then he went out and did his 3 banker laps and then a couple of hotter laps to try and set a good grid time. He pipped me to the post by 0.2 of a second. So we were running 1:12s, I believe. Everyone within 5 or 6 places of us on the grid was all within about a second. So we were very, very lucky with that one. And it was nice that when eventually I lined up for the start that more than half of the cars were actually behind us, and I wasn't expecting that. Onto the race itself, the car behaved impeccably. I think the weak link in all of this is myself. Just not getting the cornering speed up to where it really should be. The car felt very, very stable, and I suppose I could have pushed it a little bit more than that. But 1:11.3 was my fastest lap time, and that was easily 3 or 4 seconds faster than I've ever driven around there. So if that's anything to go by, the next outing should be even more successful. What helped me along the way? I suppose sharing it with someone else. That tends to put some of your a little bit of your mind at rest. The advice that he gave me with the start, just being careful, enjoy it, but more importantly, I think the major thing was the fact that the circuit was familiar. I'd been there before on a race day, so I knew where the assembly area was, and I knew how the pits operated, etc., etc. Reading the regulations, that was another thing, so we discussed that in the pre-race video. That helped. And being familiar with the car, there's no substitute for seat time, to be honest. A couple of track days, I've done 3 previous to this in the car. Silverstone International, Silverstone National and Brands Indy, and that all really made a huge difference. Familiarity, confidence in the car, and plenty of testing. Of course, it's road legal, so it meant I could drive it around about just on the Michelin Pilot tires that we got. That was our wet setup, and just ironing out little issues. one or two seals. Of course, we saw, if you look back at the build series, that there was oil seals, etc, etc. So the car is in good shape, hasn't used any oil. Couldn't be more happy with the differential. It transformed the car. If there's one thing you do to turn your road car into a race car, just change the final drive ratio if you can. Those that have been following, thank you very much indeed. Those that just dipped in for this one, for Silverstone, I've got a full build thread going. I think there must be 20 videos in there right from the start. When I purchased the 46 here for $4,500, it already had a cage and a light and flywheel, had a racing seat in it, and it came with 10 grand's worth of receipts. So if you're thinking of doing it yourself, go and buy a part finish race car, someone that's done all the hard work, or cheaper still, go and buy a finished race car and save yourself all the hassle. But my journey was in the build process as well. I've got a car exactly the way I want it, done a lot of research, and the proof of the pudding is the fact that it's lasted up. So race of two halves. We went out on the dry setup, the Ankang Aero ones. I started, did my 20-minute stint or thereabouts. There was no safety car. Pit window opens at 15 minutes, so we got to 21 minutes, I think it was. And I dived in for the compulsory 2-minute driver change, and we nailed that. We were through the pit lane in 2 minutes and 2 seconds or thereabouts, so you couldn't have done it much finer than that. And that was all down to preparation, knowing exactly how long it's going to take you to get through the pit lane. We looked at the timing on the cameras during qualification when we did the driver change. That gave us a heads up, and then we planned around that, so we knew exactly how long we had to stop for. We ran stopwatch entering the pit lane, so Mike, when he took over, knew exactly how much time we had. Mike unfortunately went out and it absolutely chucked it down. It was a pretty much a monsoon. Safety car came out, loads of people off the track, and Mike, he really did. Looking at the footage again, you could see how nervous he was, or how gingerly he was driving the car. You know what, 3 or 4 miles an hour off the dry pace on that. He managed to put in a 1:20 lap time in the wet, as opposed to 1:11, which was our fastest in the dry. And that says it all, really. On semi-slicks, the Nankang Aero ones aren't that renowned for their wet prowess, should we say. Maybe in hindsight we could have hedged our bets and just went out on the Michelin pilots, but they're a road tire. They work really well in the wets, but it's got to be very wet. It didn't really look as if the sun was shining. It was lovely. We were having a Caribbean summer, and then obviously a rain shower just headed the wrong way and changed all of that. Any more advice I can give, and looking back, maybe some more seat time, try and really push it through the corners a little bit. The brakes are very, very impressive on this car. Maybe a little bit more trail braking from me. Maybe a little bit less braking into the corners, so carrying more corner speed and getting onto the gas that little bit early. So it's all about incremental gains, should I say. And that'll come with time. As I said, the whole idea was to get the first race over and done. Keep our nose clean, which we did, and we had a blast. If you're thinking of extending from track days to racing, there's nothing quite like it. You're not racing yourself anymore. You're not trying to beat your personal bests. You're out there meeting like-minded people and having fun in a safely controlled environment. It's I would recommend it to anyone, whether you go and arrive and drive with another team or sharing a drive with someone else. There are various ways into it. Yes, it's not inexpensive, so you've got to watch the pennies, but there's an entry level for everyone. So with that in mind, that's the Silverstone post-race pretty much done. Car's in one piece, I'm in one piece, and Mike and I have both smiles on our face. If you want to look at the previous video, there's completely unedited footage of the full race itself, including the pit change. And there's another video where myself and Mike did a pre-race chat the day before Silverstone, just to get our heads around what the race would be all about, a bit of strategy and a bit of advice. So that's another good video to watch. Both are long, about 50 minutes, but if you've got nothing else to do, please give them a look. And as always, like, subscribe, notify to get the latest updates. For us, it's 750 Motor Club at Brands Indy on the 12th of June. So more of that then. Thanks for tuning in. See ya. Bye.